All right, so speaking of football, it was a great college football weekend. Alabama just looks sick. I tweeted something out.
I know, I saw that.
And
they really do.
And it's just like, unless you're an Alabama fan, it's not even fun to watch. It's not. Listen, I'm an Alabama fan, so I loved it. But I mean, if you're any other team, and I heard a guy over the weekend say, it really is unfair because if you're Miami, you're going back to the drawing board right now going, what in the hell's wrong with us? We suck. We're terrible. And I'm like,
you thought you were pretty good.
You're top 15 team.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, and he's like, that's not true. It's not Miami sucks. It's that Alabama is that good. You're not even close to where you think you need to be to compete for a national title. The fall off between number 4 and the rest of them is not even close. I mean, I watched the Georgia game. Their defense is lights out, unbelievable.
Yeah.
You got Clemson, who's going to be there at the end. You got Ohio State, looks good. Oklahoma was a shocker. They almost got beat by Tulane, but they were up by 23 at half. And then after that, it goes from like 5th to like UCLA. Yeah, whatever. Basketball maybe, but not football.
Did you watch? Did you see?
Yeah, I did, but not yet. They're not even close. Alabama would beat UCLA by 4.
Alabama? No. Yeah, but they beat LSU.
Yeah.
So a Pac-10 being,
you're talking about a team that was 5-5 last year.
I know. Just watch.
You watch Ed Orgeron, because if he goes 5-5 again this year, he's toast. He's going to go from the Savior's son to like, I'm looking for a job. He'll be gone. Steve Sarkisian looked fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like they talk about parity. The disparity in college football is right now. It's Alabama and everybody else. I'm not kidding you. I mean, and I said this. I don't think, because I think Nick Saban wins at least 2 more championships. Sure. I don't see him slowing down. I don't see he's not falling off.
Did you see him with
the thing that he's done great. We see this with people all the time that are super successful. Now, pay attention, kids. Pay attention, kids. It ain't all about you.
That's right.
It ain't my way or the highway. Real people. Do you remember when Nick Saban about 10 years ago was like, "What the hell are we doing with this run the clock thing? Are we so we're not taking time between snaps anymore?" I want to know, is that what we're doing here? Because that was not his style, and he was getting pissed off that people run and hurry up on him, right? Because it was working.
Yeah.
Ole Miss did. And so he adapted.
It is. Did you hear what
he adapted, and he did something else. When I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I have the resources, what do I do?
Yes.
I go out and find people that know what the hell they're doing, and
he brought everybody in.
He's got 3 former National Football League coaches on his staff. 3. He's got Bill O'Brien, who did an incredible job at Penn State before he went to the pros. He's got Doug Marrone, who was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's got himself 3. Normally, if you get one guy, you're like, I'm going that. It's great for recruiting because you got an NFL source, you got a guy that knows the ins and outs. I'm going there. I'm going to be playing that. He's got 3, and then his assistants are. I mean, it's like taking Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and like 2 other guys and saying, get in a room and make money for me. And they're going, okay, everyone's got their role. It's not fair, but it is fair, and that's the way it is. And I don't see anyone coming close to him. There are only a few select programs that if you lose 2 games, it's a lousy season, and Alabama's one of those.
Yes,
you cannot lose 2 games, and they're not going to.
And it's not just about, they always the resources. It's not just the money. I mean, it isn't in the money anymore, particularly with that many successes. And it's exactly what you said, is when you watch it, I love to watch the parallels between that and a super successful corporation. Mm-hmm. They do. I mean, the parallels are unbelievable. Succession planning, right? That's the other one. Who's coming up next? Big corporations do that all the time. We're hiring in new talent. We call them high potentials, and we're grooming them because we know that there are people who are going to leave. Companies who are not successful don't do that. So that's number 1. Number 2, strong culture that people buy into. Mm-hmm. And the only difference, what I think is really interesting about college football, you have a job, you're rarely there 4 to 6 years only. Yeah. I mean, if it's a good culture, you stay for 20 years. So this one is really interesting because on the front end, you got to buy into it, and you got to buy into it quick if you want to be successful. And then as you move out, the next group is in. That was number one. Number two, as much as, he yells and stuff, but there is an air of, we know what we're doing. Even when they're not winning, even when they know, because they're not lead. I mean, this game they were, but they're not always leading all the time.
Yeah.
There is this air of confidence that is not just confidence that, we're great players. It's confidence that we as an organization know what we're doing. And what's so unique about football to me, I'm almost done. What's almost unique about football is, you have it with every other sport, basketball, volleyball, but you've got so many people on a football team. You essentially have like a population that's got to go in the same direction. Yeah. And I think it's different than baseball. It makes it so much more difficult because there's so many more moving pieces. His communications are straight. Everything is straight. And the only thing that made me a little concerned about this game, and in a good way, is after the game and he put the old-time hat on, I was like, is Nick Saban softening up?
Well, he's been softening up, but I don't think it's considered softening up.
I don't mean softening up. Coach,
no, I know what you mean.
The first time I was like, look at him.
Yeah.
He's being silly.
He looks like he's finally enjoying himself a little bit.
That's right.
But he'll be the first one to tell you that when you have a stupid penalty and you're up by 35, he's going to just rip your brains out, because eventually that can't be done.
His style is so different, but it is completely a different version of John Wooden, the basketball coach.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think
it's different.
When I got here in 1988, it was Bear Bryant. And we were doing a radio show, and people would call in with his old Bear Bryant things, and we kind of roll our eyes. And we were like, you're right. I mean, no one's ever going to win 6 championships again, and it's never going to happen. It was Bear Bryant. And obviously Bear Bryant is still much revered here.
Be careful.
But I'm telling you, you don't hear about Bear Bryant anymore here. You don't, because you don't have to. First of all, you got a guy who just beat his record. He's got 7 championships. He's got 6 at Alabama. I'm telling you, and John Wooden, what do you win, 10 in a row? I don't think you'll ever see that. You'll never see that in college basketball again, ever again. You'll never see that. And it was a different time, but that's what makes this so special.
Yes.
Because Bear Bryant didn't have any recruiting restrictions. He could go out and give out 150 scholarships if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And they changed that, so obviously to help parity in college football. Can't do that anymore. So the fact that he's doing this now, and he's doing it decade to decade, and adapting to it. And again, you can sit there and say, well, the rich get richer and they've got all the resources. Well, they got all the resources because they did it right and they started winning football games. And when they win football games, you're bringing in money. When you got money, you can spend it. I mean, you look from his staff from top to bottom. You brought up a great point, though, too. It's such a business. Yes. Everybody knows their role. If you're doing your role, then you're good. Then leave it alone. In some businesses, you got to do other people's jobs. And if you're doing other people's jobs, you're not going to be successful.
Unless
you need to shore it up. You need to come work on weekends. I get that when you're starting off. Yeah. Okay, I get that. We do that here.
Yes.
We're working on Labor Day. Here you are. We're working on Labor Day. I get that. But when everyone is doing their role to the best of its capability, there's nothing like it. It's just beautiful. I mean, you don't even some of these players probably don't even see Nick Saban throughout the week because you answer to him. He's doing his job, and then afterwards we're all celebrating. But it's I'm telling you, 100 years from now, I don't think we're going to see what we're seeing right now.
So one thing that is interesting about that, and this is a key to success in any organization. Like you just said, everybody knows their role. Some people never see Nick Saban. But one of the things we know about successful corporations, successful organizations, there is a communication so that the person who never sees the CEO, I'm just using that example, understands not only their job, but how their job is related to the success of the organization. Because that's a major, in sports particularly, but also in business. If you're working a job, and you really don't understand how your job contributes to the and not this BS, you're a very important part of this, and we think value. No. Literally understanding, I'm doing XYZ. I don't have to ever get to go to the C-suite. I don't ever get to start. why am I important?
Yep.
If you cannot understand that, then your organization has done a very poor job of pulling together. And that's when you get people who don't pull in a straight line because all they see is I'm doing this thing that is not being recognized. I'm not at the top. I get some accolade, I get my scholarship, I get money, but I don't understand why I'm doing this.
And the other thing is, I think it's amazing too, is maybe Nick Saban buys low and sells high, but he brings in people into that organization. Lane Kiffin was kind of a firecracker. Steve Sarkisian was an alcoholic who was drinking at meetings at USC. And he brings them in, and I don't know if it's because of the culture that he nurtures there or what it is, but it's like they get there 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden they get it, and next thing you know, they're going somewhere else, and they're being.
But he brings in
Bill Belichick kind of did that with New England until recently. I think a lot of people thought that Cam Newton was going to be the MVP again because he was in that organization. We saw that worked out, but a lot of that I think had to do with Tom Brady.
Yeah,
you had a Tom Brady who had won Super Bowls. He's like, this is the way it's going to be done. And I think he kind of followed his boss's plan, showing up early, even on snow days for OTAs and everything else. And now he seems like he's having a better time in Tampa Bay than he's ever had at New England. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing the guys he brings in. Butch Jones. I mean, he brings these guys in who seem broken, and then he gives them a second shot. And they're like, hey, listen, if you're here for 3 or 4 years, man, it's going to catapult you back into a head coaching job.
But he brings them in for a reason. It's not just, I'm a nice guy and I want to give them a second shot, right? So, strategically, he's thinking, this is a guy who's got something that is of value to me. Mm-hmm. This is not just, I'm going to rehab him for the sake of rehabbing. I mean, because you look at the people that he's brought in, they have skills, they're broken, they've got their crap, they've got their baggage. But I think one of the things he's able to do is know that we have a culture that doesn't tolerate it, number one. Number two, and this is the gamble, and I mean, I don't know Nick Saban, but if I'm thinking like a CEO, I'm thinking, okay, this guy, he's got some stuff that he can contribute. Yeah. We're in a position that if he screws up, we'll just let him go. Yeah. He's not going to break.
But it never happens.
No, I know.
It never
because
happens.
It's a strong culture.
No one ever screws it up.
Because you're going to play. You're a part of, and it's not just Nick Saban. See, I think that's the thing that's interesting. You're a part of everywhere you look. Everywhere you look, every successful organization, everywhere you look, every player, every person is sort of going in the same direction. It's a little creepy. I mean, I've been involved with organizations where, everybody's so much on the same page that you kind of sit there and go, it feels cultish, but it's not. It's called a strong culture.
Yeah. They lost half their offense and 4 coaches, and you would have never known it. I'm sitting there watching it.
No,
I'm like, It's just amazing. And again, you talk about a Bill O'Brien who did an incredible job from the collegiate level. Went straight to the National Football League. Doug Marrone, for God's sakes. I mean, and I just can't imagine that conversation that he's having with these former NFL coaches who obviously I would think would want to. Maybe they don't want to get back. Maybe they don't want to go back to the National Football League, and they're happy being an assistant. We're seeing that with Herb Edwards and his coaching with Lovie Smith. He's seeing some former guys get back in the college game. But I'm just like, it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't think. I can honestly, I'm being serious, I don't know if Alabama will not be favored for every game for the rest of my life. As long as Nick Saban's there.
Yeah.
As long as Nick Saban's at Alabama, I don't think Alabama will ever be an underdog again. You said right here. As long as Nick Saban's there, it could be 4 years, 2 years, 12 years, whatever it is. He's 68, he'll be 69, I think, in October, or he may be 69 now. I don't see anything. And then this Bryce Young kid comes in and just looks like he's been playing for 15 years. And I'm going, he's setting records that Joe Namath had. I'm like, what the hell? I mean,
Were you doing this? I was doing this. Because of the whole NIL thing. And
I hammered on the Clemson quarterback.
Yeah. Well,
he was in the Dr. Pepper commercials right after he threw a pick. He was 5 of 7 for 35 yards against that Georgia.
You watch. I mean, he got sacked 7 times. He was under he got just hammered.
Yep.
But I remember
how was that money spent there, Dr. Pepper?
We were talking about that when I saw the Alabama quarterback. And that was it's terrible that I should say that. That was the first thing I thought was, Oh, thank God, because he's got a seven-figure contract. Thank God he threw from the end zone. He threw
somebody at Dr. Pepper was catching some
going, oh,
nice pick
God,
there for this quarterback. Oh, it's the first game of the year. I know. Well,
hard. I mean, listen, I'm going to just say this. I feel for these players. I really do. Because the amount of pressure, you can say they brought it on themselves or whatever, but can you imagine that went through his head that didn't go through last year? So last year, if you screwed up, I had a really bad game. I let my team down. I mean, there's enough crap with losing and playing like that. But now, on top of it, you're like, geez, just